So, if you guys can hear that, there's a nice little bearing noise on the X5. And at 157,000 miles, I think we're getting some failures in the pulley system. So, stick with me tonight when we're gonna start digging into this. I'm gonna check for all the play and all the pulleys, and we'll see what we have to replace. Okay, so let's get into this thing right now. It sounded like a deep bearing groaning noise, as you could hear. Well, I don't know how much you could hear over the engine, but so I pulled off the accessories. So basically, you need your accessory belt, which is your water pump, your alternator, and then a couple oilers, and then your power steering pump. So spinning stuff, you can kind of get a idea of what's going on. I'm trying to position you guys the best way possible because there's not much room underneath this. So hopefully this is the best. Yep. Okay, so let's try this. So it's hard to get these two to spin because I have the belt completely out, and I really need to take a breaker bar and separate these two. But when I spun them, this one has some play, and I just replaced this. I don't know with what brand, but I did replace this about 2 years ago, and it has some play but not much. This one is still silent, this guy. And here's my alternator back here. Nothing. But we come over here. Now, this is the water pump. I don't know how much you can see because you're so close, but there is some visible play on there. And also when I spin it, that doesn't sound healthy. So I'm gonna bet that water pump is bad. Okay, time for a mid-game recap. So, halfway with taking everything off, not too difficult. Drain coolant right there. Basically, there's a drain plug at the bottom of either of this or this. I don't know, it's a blue drain plug. So, this guy, pull it out at the 13, and then unscrew the expansion hand cap to let everything drain out. One thing I like to do is, you can see that tab right there. I like to pull that out and then pull this transmission cooler off, and that really helps everything drain out. And then started working on the water pump, if I can get a good angle. So that guy, it's 4 10mm bolts, and then pull off your pulley. I whacked it with a rubber mallet because it was kind of rusted on, even though this is plastic. So don't hit too hard. That's why rubber was the tool of choice here. Rubber mallet, and came off after a couple whacks. To get the 10mm bolts off, I actually reused the fan or the water pump pulley tool to hold the pulley in place while I cracked it loose with a tiny 10mm wrench, so they're not on tight, so you don't have to go crazy on them. If you don't have this, which I highly advise you do, you could also put the belt back on. That way there's tension on the pulley. That way you can take your wrench and crack the bolts loose. But from here, this is what this looks like. Oh geez, you can't see anything. But, so, That's what your water pump pulley looks like. You can see the bolts, 4 bolts holding it on. So you want to crack those 4 bolts off. And then let me show you with a new water pump pulley. If it's kind of rusted on because the O-ring's been on there for too long, you have this threaded hole and this threaded hole right here. So you put the bolts you took out, any 2 of the 4 you took off, and you thread them in here. Do it evenly so you don't break the ears off of this thing. And then all you gotta do is slowly crank it, and then basically this O-ring seal should eventually loosen. And then you got your water pump out. So let's continue on. So basically, there you have it. That's your opening. You gotta get your bolts in there, and then all you gotta do is snug them down. You get 3 millimeters of gap, and then you tug a lot because this O-ring, since it's been there for so long, is probably gonna be a very good fit. But yeah, I guess one other thing to show you is the noise difference between new and used. So that noise, not the greatest. Here is the GMB one. If you can see, no play. Silent operation. So this goes in, this is junk. But as you can see, this impeller doesn't really break, at least even after 16 years of driving. Doesn't break. It just, the bearing fails and then you need to get a new one. So I guess let's start assembly. So what I've gone ahead and done is lube up the O-ring with a bunch of Vaseline, and you can see me trying to hit it in with a dead blow just to like overcome the O-ring seal or the O-ring lip. It didn't really quite work, so after struggling with that for about 10-15 minutes, I ended up just pressing it in using all my 2 hands and pressing it at the 4 corners where the studs are, and eventually after some pressing it did finally pop in. And the last part of this project is filling up the coolant and bleeding the system, making sure there are no leaks. This basically takes a while. I undo the bleed at the top radiator hose and just keep on filling in more and more coolant. Eventually you want to rev the engine up to like maybe 2,000, 2,500 for a little bit, open up the heater core, and it just keeps on sucking in more and more coolant, and eventually it will be fully bled so you can put everything back together. So at this point the vehicle is fully bled and I'm just securing the under panels because there are no more leaks. Thank you guys for watching this video. I know it's a little bit longer than usual, but I hope it was detailed enough.